So typically I wouldn't want to do like 2 of these videos back to back, but I'm working on a Paul Pierce video that's taking a bit more detail than a normal video would, so as a result, we're going to do 2 of these, and hopefully the Paul Pierce video can be out tomorrow. But now we can talk about some trade rumors, because that's always fun. The trade deadline is not too far away, and it is my favorite holiday of the year. This one is centered around Jahlil Okafor, who is a low post guy. It's pretty much all he does well, is he scores in the low block, scores around the basket, and he punches people in the face when he goes to Boston. So that's Jahlil's whole thing, and given that Joel Embiid is the second coming of whatever sort of deity you want to roll with, it makes sense that the Sixers want to move Jahlil Okafor, and apparently the New Orleans Pelicans are in the market for Jahlil, as they're willing to give up a 2018 first-round pick, as well as some random backup center to make the salary work or whatever. And they believe that Jahlil can do a thing for them. Now, from a 76ers standpoint, yeah, I understand this completely. You get a first-round pick for a guy that you don't really want, and a guy that you don't need, given that you have Joel Embiid. I think I rhymed there. Also, Nerlens Noel. If there's anyone they're going to keep between Okafor and Noel, it would be Nerlens, especially because he's actually making his mid-range jumpers, which makes me as happy as I can ever be, as you can clearly tell by the way I sound in this video. So it makes sense from a Sixers standpoint. Now, if we go over to the New Orleans Pelicans, I think there's a couple of questions that I think they're trying to answer with this move, one of which is Anthony Davis a power forward or a center? I mean, his natural position is the 4, but he creates quite a mismatch in terms of his shooting and his athleticism and just his overall skill if you put him at the center position. But on the flip side of that, he does have a thin frame, and maybe him going up against the teeth of the defense so much as a center would lead to more injuries, which of course you don't want for him. So if you acquire Jahlil Okafor, maybe he can be the center for Anthony Davis, and AD can go back to the power forward spot, because Jahlil is someone who's going to be around the basket all the time, and then Anthony Davis can operate from mid-range and all that. But then there are quite a few counter-arguments you could make with this one of which is Jahlil Okafor just might get in Anthony Davis's way on offense, because Jahlil really can't contribute unless he's right around the basket. When it comes to posting up, finishing plays, that's about it. So if AD wants to attack the rim and Jahlil Okafor is standing around there and his defender is there as well, might not be the best thing, and because Jahlil can't shoot from mid-range, I don't know, that could be more of a problem than anything. Which is why it may be better for them to have Jahlil Okafor come off the bench, because I think the type of big man that he is, the slow-footed big who's really good at scoring around the basket, but when it comes to anything else, whether it be mid-range, passing, defense, they're not the best. It seems like that type of guy is coming off the bench now. The Nikola Vucevic, well actually Vucevic can shoot and he's a good passer, but he's not good defensively. Enes Kanter, who's not good on defense, Greg Monroe, who's not good on defense. These guys are coming off the bench now, and I think that would be the same thing with Jahlil. In New Orleans, that's what I would do, because their starting lineup recently of Drew Holiday, Buddy Hield, Solomon Hill, Terrence Jones, and Anthony Davis at the 5 has been really damn good on defense, because it allows AD to, one, not make up for Omer Asik in his bad defense. It also allows AD to just free roam around the basket. Terrence Jones is a nice athlete at the 4. Solomon Hill is a good defender. Drew Holiday is a good defender. It makes sense. You insert Jahlil Okafor into that, you probably get a lot worse defensively. So you keep that intact, and then you have Jahlil come off the bench, which can hopefully nullify some of the damage he's going to do to you defensively, just because, I don't know, he's playing 20 minutes a game or 25 minutes rather than 35 minutes. And we do see how valuable Enes Kanter is for OKC in the sense of, like, he's in there, he can provide scoring, and then the moment it goes bad, they can pull him out of the game. But another thing with Jahlil is, I think you really need, like, a particular set of players around him. He has to be in the game with good defensive players, and if you're having him come off the bench, he's typically going to be playing with other guys on your bench, and I mean, look, if you're full of defensive players, awesome, but if we look at the Pelicans, I would say the defenders on their team would be Anthony Davis, who I don't want to play with Jahlil too much, Drew, Solomon Hill, Terrence Jones, Dante Cunningham, and that's kind of about it. So they have a decent amount of guys who can play defense, but they typically all play together, which makes up for their best defensive lineup. You're going to have to mismatch a little bit. You're going to have like two of those guys in the game with Jahlil so you can at least not become awful defensively when he's in the game, which then kind of, it could make your starting lineup a little worse defensively because you're taking guys out earlier than you'd like to. It can be this whole thing of like trying to mismatch rotations and everything to accommodate for the fact that Jahlil Okafor sucks at defense. Are we really going to want to do all that? Is Jahlil Okafor worth all that? Is his scoring at the basket worth you like overhauling your entire rotation to make sure like two defensive players are in the game with him at all times? I don't know. And is it worth the 2018 first round pick? I mean, what I would do, and I think what a lot of people would do, is I would try to get Nerlens Noel from the 76ers, but one, that would probably cost you more. Two, the Sixers might just want to keep Nerlens, because again, like I mentioned, he's actually hitting his mid-range jumpers, which means maybe he actually can play off of Embiid. I don't know, because of course Nerlens is great when it comes to defense, as opposed to Jahlil. But now, let's talk about the Pelicans situation a little bit. I did mention that they'd be willing to give up a 2018 first-round pick for Jahlil Okafor. The Pels are in a really weird spot, because they're not a good team. They have one of the, 5 to 7 best players in the league in Anthony Davis. And they really have like 2 years after this one to build a winning team, because in the 2020 season, AD is going to have 2 years left, and then you're going to get into the situation of, we're not a good team, star player has 2 years left, we could trade him this year, so then we can actually get something back for him, because if we wait until he has 1 year left, then we're not going to get like the maximum offer back, because then someone can just go for him in free agency. You know the deal. So they have about a 2-year window here. So I understand the urgency and I understand the idea of wanting to trade a first-round pick, because if you just keep the 2018 pick, even if you get someone who's really good, they might not be really good right away, and then you're dealing with the whole, AD if he's going to leave or whatever. So the Pels are in a weird spot. So I can't understand the desperation for the Pelicans in trying to acquire a guy like Jahlil Okafor. They're a very good defensive team. They're pretty bad on offense. I would guess that they hope that they would be compromising their defense a little bit, but they'd also just get better at scoring by guys not named Drew Holiday and Anthony Davis. I don't know, man. Jahlil Okafor, the lack of defense, the lack of shooting, the lack of passing, you really have to plan around him, and it's like, is he really worth it? I don't know, but I do understand the urgency from the Pelicans. Ultimately, would I do it? I'd probably look to get someone else. I mean, hell, if you really decide that Anthony Davis is your center, then I think getting a power forward who can play off of AD might help you out more than getting Jahlil Okafor. But if they're going to go this route, then, I don't know, just a rumor. They haven't traded for him yet. That's going to do it. The Paul Pierce video is hopefully out tomorrow. And I'm done.